Tuttle here. It's storm season in Oklahoma, and with that comes torrential rain, high winds, and hail. To protect your home and your family from these threats, the one roofing company you should trust is Ferguson Roof Systems. They've been providing the best in roofing services for nearly half a century. Ferguson is Oklahoma's full-service roofing company, certified with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and a 5-star rating on Google. And with Ferguson now offering Class 4 impact-resistant shingles, now is the time to trust them with your home's roof. Get started today at FergusonRoofSystems.com.
Good evening, everyone. Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle back with you here on a Friday night. It's about 9:30. We're going to give you a weather update here as your forecast for Easter weekend. And also talk about the storm environment here for the remainder of this evening to see if we're still going to be seeing some of those severe storms pop up across parts of Oklahoma. So thanks for joining me. Kick back, relax, your favorite beverage, and get on down with the program. So I've got the camera focused out to the east. Northeast of Oklahoma City, but I think the storms have finally pushed too far away. We had some develop pretty close to our backyard, and then they kind of gotten a little bit better organized as they're moving closer in toward the Tulsa area. We're going to show you those here in a minute. But right now I've got 74 degrees with a east to northeast wind, so quite a difference in my atmosphere here as dew points have dropped again, thanks to a little change in the environment. So we're going to talk about that as well. Pretty neat little thing showed up on radar here this evening. So I'm going to put this in motion for you, and you're going to watch the collision of a couple of boundaries. So we had the little frontal boundary here, and we had it's really a surface trough, but it's kind of like a pseudo dry line just because it had some drier air with this little line right here. So this one went west, this one went south, and they collided. And when they collided in this spot right here, they really helped to generate some of these showers and storms because that's convergence. Those are two boundaries colliding, and that created these little train of thunderstorms that moved to the south and east. Now, the back end here is not doing too hot, but the front end storm is still holding its own. And we're going to zoom into that. But that right there is the only activity across central Oklahoma. So since other storms didn't develop when these boundaries did collide, I don't anticipate anything more. So this will be it here for the evening. And we'll track these storms down here as they work their way south of Tulsa into the rest of eastern Oklahoma. 1, 2, and then kind of a weakening 3. This particular one here has got some hail around 1 inch in diameter, and there's a severe thunderstorm warning for it for Slick and Beggs heading up toward Old Mogi. And the models do indicate at some point here we might get a little rotation with that. Here's a close-up view of that here as well. And the rotation hasn't really occurred too much as far as anything significant, but it is in an area where that could take place, especially if we go a little bit more in time and it gets a bit better organized, a little stronger. So we'll keep an eye on it here for this evening as it could potentially produce a tornado at some point before it leaves Oklahoma down into this area. So that'll be something to watch here for the remainder of tonight. Let me think here. Also, there is a severe thunderstorm watch in effect. It's this outline you see in blue on the screen. So it does not include Oklahoma City, just to our east. It does include Stillwater and Tulsa. This is for additional storm development that should take place later on tonight. But for right now, this is the only game in town and moving kind of in this fashion. So something I'll be watching for off and on here for you tonight. Okay, so let's take a look at the computer models here for tonight and for the rest of this period. And it actually did, this one actually did pretty good for today. It highlighted that little area. It didn't exactly know the perfect spot of where it was going to develop, but it was in the ballpark, which was close enough. That's all you can ask for. It does have this storm, though, here from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, rolling through right about the place where it is currently, so that's pretty good. Also has another storm developing, though, around the Tulsa area. We'll see if that happens. But it does have off and on little helicity tracks, which indicates probability of at least some hail within this storm. This is a much longer helicity track, so potentially, maybe it thinks there might be a better potential for a tornado in that area. The problem is the winds are pretty light at the lowest levels, a little weak here, about 10 knots. So that usually kind of goes against trying to get a tornado, at least one that lasts for longer than just a few seconds to a minute or so. But regardless, it's a marginal risk, so we'll kind of keep an eye on that here for the remainder of this evening. Now, as far as any new development goes, that frontal boundary that's in the vicinity should continue to light up with the enhancement of low-level jet and some other things going on. So we should see some overnight showers and storms here across the eastern and northeastern parts of Oklahoma. You can see there's not a lot of heavy action here in Oklahoma City, but we do have a lot of widespread cloudiness, some pockets of drizzles, some scattered showers that'll probably happen overnight, tonight into tomorrow morning. whereas most of the measurable rainfall will be across the east. This is on Saturday afternoon now as we head into the 6 o'clock hour. That little dreary, cloudy mess just continues here across the state. It's not a pretty day. It'll also be kind of cool. I'll show you those temperatures here in a second. Meanwhile, let's go to the Sunday period because it's Easter, right? Let's see, we're gonna salvage a decent Easter on the weather. Well, Saturday night and Sunday morning, it's more of the same. Let's go to Sunday morning. There's 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m. Just more sprinkles and maybe pockets of drizzle, some light showers. That moves on off toward 1 o'clock, and it's finally getting out of the state by 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Finally, it starts to end by the time we start to wrap up our Sunday. Well, I don't know about you. It doesn't do me any good. I don't like that at all. Let's see about the cloud cover. How does that factor in? Let's see if that's changed any. So, of course, the clouds will build in tonight into tomorrow. So all the blue you see on the map is all cloudiness, and that's up through the morning hours. There's some breaks out in the panhandle and northwest Oklahoma through the afternoon here, so it's not completely socked in this area of the state, but here in Oklahoma City it is pretty much mostly cloudy. There's some breaks of sun once you head out toward Canadian County, and there are pockets that'll kind of move around a little bit, especially in north central Oklahoma, so there will be some peaks of sun, but it's not a very sunshiny day like today was. Alright, so what about Sunday? Let's go to Saturday night. Clouds fill back in all the way, and then on Sunday it's a morning of cloudiness, and then as we head into the morning hours, there's 10 o'clock. Western Oklahoma starting to see some breaks. There's noontime, 1 o'clock. There's a full sun out in western Oklahoma. 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. We're just now getting on the edge of the cloud line here in Oklahoma City. So by late afternoon, we should start to see some sunshine coming on through, and we should get more and more sun as the sun begins to set. But unfortunately, eastern Oklahoma, you don't have much to hope for. Maybe northeast Oklahoma and far southern Oklahoma, a few breaks in the clouds as the sun sets, and that's about all you can ask for. Then your clouds start to break up a little bit as we head into Sunday night. So again, that doesn't do much for Easter, does it? All right, let's take a look at the wind and the temperatures with this environment and the rainfall totals. So right now, the temperatures for this time period, of course, it was quite toasty today out west. That cold front is going to drop things down into the 50s and 40s tonight. There's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's a chilly start on your Saturday, and because of the clouds, because of the off and on scattered showers and drizzles and sprinkles, temperatures don't really change much. We're in the 40s and 50s statewide, where the atmosphere seems to be a little cooler, where the precipitation may be a little heavier, more measurable. It keeps those readings into the 40s, where it allows a few peaks of sun and not as much precipitation to rebound back into the 50s. That's kind of how you break down that when you're looking at the temperatures. Okay, so let's head on into Sunday morning. Same idea, lots of 40s out there across the state. What about lunchtime? Well, we start to see that sunshine, right, in southwest Oklahoma, so they start to warm up first. The rest of us in the 40s and 50s. All right, let's head to the afternoon. There's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. Man, it's just a cold, chilly day. Raw, 50 so, Tulsa, about 55 here in Oklahoma City, but 73 in Elk City. So western Oklahoma is a place to be for Easter, but never really any warmer than that here in central Oklahoma. Then we start to cool down Sunday evening again. Blah. Let's go on into Monday morning. There's 4 o'clock in the morning. So there are 2 nights, it looks like, where you're going to have to watch, and that's Monday morning and Tuesday morning for a potential freeze, especially up in northeastern parts of the state. So again, if you kind of plan it early or just doing it this weekend, you might have to cover those up again and this will be the last time. I don't think we're going to get any more of these freezes for the state after this coming week, and then that's going to be about it. Wind fields within this. Let's take a look at those. So obviously it was windy today. It's going to be windy here this evening once that front does start to press through overnight into tomorrow. So all this is a north to northwest, northeast breeze. The wind's up around 20 to 25 miles per hour. Going to have gusts up to around 30 again at least. All right, so it's windy on our Saturday. All right, then they calm down Saturday evening. And then what about Easter? Is anything good for Easter on this weather deal? All right, here we go, the afternoon. Winds of around 5 to 10 knots. Oh, that's great. We finally get rid of the wind. So at least the winds won't bother us on our Sunday. But then, believe it or not, sometimes the winds help to mix things up in the atmosphere and clear out the skies, but that's not going to happen with that. So we kind of lose out on that deal. Let's take a look at total rainfall amounts for this entire event and see how that stacks up. So again, tonight the heavier showers and storms will anchor up to around 1 to 2 to 3 inches, maybe even 4. So you can get some brief flash flooding overnight where you get those heavier showers and thunderstorms. As we head on into Sunday morning, you can still see the precipitation kind of tally up a little bit on the light side here over central Oklahoma. Over that period of time, we're looking at about 2 to 3 tenths in the greater Oklahoma City metro area. Some spots might get a little heavier than that down south and out west, about 1/10 to 2/10 at most. And then once you get really out in western and southwestern Oklahoma, just enough to get a few drops on the windshield, on the ground. That's about it. So I'm not going to do anything for the fire danger out here. Only thing you got going on other than the moisture is the fact you'll get a break in that because of the conditions that we have to deal with the extra moisture and cloudiness and lighter winds. So that'll help with fire danger, but not for the precipitation side. Once again, eastern third of the state gets all the action when it comes to widespread rain. All right, so we covered the temperatures for you. We covered the winds. We covered the rainfall totals, and we covered the severe weather. So I think that was everything I wanted to cover. So hope that was good for you. This is actually a pretty short, simple, sweet forecast. I know the west side just can't get any rain. We'll take a look at the storms, and I'll take a look at the environment so you guys are here. We'll just do a little quick analysis to see what potentially is on the table for these guys out in eastern Oklahoma. So you guys are around Tulsa right now. So there are 2 storms out here south of Tulsa. So one around Beggs, one around Bristow. This one at Bristow is finally starting to get its act together a little bit. They have had a history of producing about 1-inch size hail. This one has about 1.25 inch size hail. The algorithms probability of a tornado though is only 1%, so that's a good sign, right? Let me show you the speed on this guy. Let's see here. So severe thunderstorm warning, and we're looking at movement to the east at about 30 miles per hour. Hail to the size about 1 inch. Okmulgee, Begg, Slick, Preston, and Okmulgee State Park. You guys are in the path of this particular storm as it works toward your area. And back behind it is the one around Depew and southwestern Bristow, kind of following the same track. So once this one goes by, you got a secondary one. It's not severe right now, but it is at least a little bit of a thunderstorm. Okay, we did question whether or not there was anything decent on the velocity side of data. I do not see any still, so that's some good news. And honestly, the storm looks pretty sad. I mean, it looks pretty pathetic. Let me go look at a different view on this one, and let's take a look upstairs, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so we're looking at about a 40,000 foot tall thunderstorm. So a lot of times when you get to that supercell structure, you can get up to around 50,000 or so. So it's on the lower end side of the severity. But it does have at least a little bit of a hail core down here at the bottom. Let me check others. There's a little updraft there. So this updraft here is holding up hail aloft. So yeah, the 1 inch to 1.25 is no problem with this type of a deal. You'll likely probably get some golf balls thrown in there at some point with this as the storm kind of holds these hailstones up a little longer, lets them grow in size. So we'll look for that. Let me think, what else is good for you guys? Oh, I wanted to do the analysis on the severe weather indices. So let me go pull up, let's go pull up this for one and refresh this. Okay, so in this particular case, we had our little triple point that formed kind of in this area. Now it's sagging southward here to right about in this area. So what that'll do is that'll drag that cold front here and push it in this direction, okay? And then the drier air is now being kicked out here far southwest Oklahoma only. And then you have your little warm front that's fighting the battle of the cold front. It's kind of stationary now because this configuration. This part won't move south that much, so it's kind of stationary now. And if anything, it kind of just sags south as this surface low gets repositioned more and more to the south with time. But down here, you've got the low to mid 60s. So this is your instability zone that is working its way to the north and northwest. And you have temperatures in that slot also into the low 70s. So this is kind of marginal instability for the remainder of tonight. Let's take a look at any of the special indices. Let me see if I can do this one first. Let me just see what the environment is for the storm. When you look back at the analog data to see whether or not it meets criteria for producing a tornado, like the environment itself, Let's see, all tornadoes it does. Let's go to significant, no. Discrete, yes. QLCS, yes. Okay. So on the tornado aspect of this, the storm, the significant tornado parameter is in the middle of the bar. The supercell composite also in the bar. ML cape, in other words, the mixed layer cape is also in the bar. Effective shear as well. Effective helicity is good, and the LCLs. In other words, the cloud bases are fairly low enough. So, in theory, all the ingredients are there where you have to watch for the potential for a tornado. Doesn't always mean it's going to happen, because I use this a lot just to kind of see what the atmosphere looks like ahead of these. And just because it says, and given the same similar type setup, they found prior cases where tornadoes did occur, doesn't mean that one will. I wish there was a better correlation so that when I would see that, I could give more weight to it. But over time of using it the last few years, it's just not there. It's a good indices to kind of tell me what I already know, that the atmosphere does have the potential, but it's not a telltale sign. Okay, so let's go into some of the other indices that we have. So let me back this out. And we'll see if any of the other high resolution model data comes in that says something a little bit different than the ones we just looked at. Okay. So let's see what this CAN model does. It doesn't even know it's storming out there. So I'm just going to throw this one away. Seriously, if you can't get now right, why would I pay attention to you later, right? All right, let's see about this one. What's it going to do? Anything? At least it knows it's storming, so that's good. So it's got that little batch of storms moving through south of Tulsa here for the latter part of the evening, and some helicity tracks for some hail, potentially a tornado. All right, that's through the 1 o'clock in the morning hour, and then it's quickly moving to the south and east. Then new development overnight. Again, mostly the heavy stuff is out to the east, and then moves on away. Light stuff in its place. And then by Sunday afternoon, it's all out of here. All right, so same song and dance as the one we looked at before. All right, let's go to this one, which is usually pretty aggressive. It gets a little too excited sometimes, but let's see what it does. All right, so at least it knows there's a storm. It's about 100 miles off, but at least it knows there's a storm out there. Well, that's terrible, man. Oh, good grief. I think I'm going to throw this one away, too. It's not even worth it. All right, I'm not even going to bother looking at that one. All right, so let's go back to the one that we do know, analyze the atmosphere correctly tonight, and I actually knew there was storms in the area, so we'll do that one. Let's take a look at the updraft helicity. We'll see what that shows. It should have a couple of streaks there in south of Tulsa. They're not very strong, though. Looks like this is a pretty weak streak, so that's good. All right, let me see the significant tornado parameter. Let's see where that's shaping up. It's actually the strongest right now down along the I-35 corridor. We just don't have a kicker down here, and the cap is too strong. So if I were to pick a spot here on the map for the very strongest parameters, cap is already in place over 100 sin, so nothing's going to pop down there. Thank goodness, because if it did, that's a pretty good setup for a tornado. So see, that's what I'm saying. You can still have the ingredients. Doesn't mean something's going to happen. We have the ingredients a lot during the springtime. So that's, when you hear people say, well, atmosphere's loaded. If something happens, it's going to be big. Well, that can actually happen a lot of times in the springtime. You have to have some other ingredients in place, though, to kind of get those storms to go. Okay, so through midnight, there's some minor numbers, values up here in this area where the storms are going through. It's very weak, though. It's not overly strong. So the tornado threat is very low. It's not zero. It's just really low, which is good. So it's not like it's screaming, watch out while everybody sleeps. It's always a good deal, though, to have a no-weather radio with you. So it will alert you while you're asleep. And you can also use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. That also will warn you as well. In the past, I've given you this, and a lot of you guys took me up on it. So if you go to the link I'm going to post here on YouTube and Facebook, let's see here. You can pick up a no-weather radio. This is the one that I bought the other day and showed it to you, and it was really easy to use. It's on my Amazon store, so if you want to pick that up, save $1 or $2. I think you get prime shipping, so it comes the next day or day after. You can get that thing set up. Let's see here. What else? What else do we have? I was looking at my links here to give you. Some of you, again, aren't getting all the Facebook updates on time. And so I've got a few hundred of you that sign up for this, so I'll post a link there. If you have signed up in the past and you don't get notifications from me, you can click on that link, and then that will give you what you need to know. And that way I give you as soon as I go live, you get a notification from your Facebook Messenger. That way you don't miss the broadcast. And then here's one for my, here's a link here for my business partners. So let's say, you know what, AT, we like what you do, we like your style, we'd like to advertise with you. So if you want to be a sponsor for AT's Weather, you can hit that link and get all the information for there, so your business can help support and sponsor AT's Weather. And be glad to have you on board. And I'll put that on YouTube as well. Okay, so I think those are some of the links here to share tonight for you guys, from me. I pretty much covered. Dylan wants to know, is it possible for a nadir north of Tulsa? No, they're going to have to be, because the front is actually the, okay, so let's go back to the map. So let's take a look at this. All right. So the frontal position, the little boundary we talked about, is about like so. Okay. So it's just on the north end of Tulsa County. So if you're north of this boundary, you've got no chance. Now you might get an elevated thunderstorm that could have a little bit of hail with it in these cases, but otherwise you got no chance for a tornado. And this boundary is sagging to the south, little by little. So it's going to gradually remove all these little counties out of it as we go through time, as far as that particular thread goes. So that's some good news there. Let's see. And if we were to, let's see, which one did I have? Let's go to this guy. No, it was this one. Yeah, I turned it off, so I switched sources. All right, let's go look at this high resolution. First, I'll do this one. Let's see if it times out pretty good. So there's midnight, for example. So it's 2 hours from now. And it kind of already has that weak funnel band already through Tulsa, etc. And it's actually getting harder and harder to find. It's getting more and more diffuse down here because it is on the move. So the whole atmosphere is just kind of slowly sagging southward. So this tail end's a little messy, but also probably because of the storms in the area, so it kind of messes up the surface flow. But so that's why most of that threat for anything like that is short-lived currently in this area, but then with time, for the rest of the part of our evening through 1 o'clock in the morning, is going to be down here along 40 and Fort Smith and that kind of deal. That's a good question, though. Let me check you guys on YouTube here. By the way, thanks for checking in. I see you, Jim. Hello from Mustang. Let's see. It's like Jody's got everybody on track. Happy Easter, by the way, everybody. Yeah, early. Hope you're going to have a great Easter weekend, despite what the weather is going to do for us. Let me think. Anything to worry about in Jacktown? With a name like Jacktown, why would you worry about anything? I just like saying Jacktown. I mean, who wouldn't? Halens and Salem Springs. Should I hide my truck? I tell you what, man, with the price of new vehicles, and unless you want to get one trashed, man, you got to protect those vehicles nowadays. It's not like you can just go out and get another one at a low cost. You got to hunt. And then I'm hearing stories now of, there was a tornado emergency earlier in Arkansas, Mike and Robert, when I was just about to go on. So yeah, I mean, that was part of the forecast over there, so it's not surprising. But yeah, I think it was at work today. We talked about one of their guys' dad. He was going to buy a new truck, and it didn't have all the chips in it. And they said, well, they'd give it to him when they came in at an unknown time later, which means half the truck wouldn't work right. He said, that's okay. I'll just wait. So it's a mess still up there on the vehicle shortage. Let's go back and look at those storms real quick. And we can check Arkansas, see what's out there now. See if that thing is still there. Yeah, it is, but it's not in the same state that it was earlier. So this is going off in the storm he's talking about earlier. If we go up here, get that off there. Zoom right in here, Jonesboro area. So these little storm spotter reports here around Arkansas and Walnut Ridge and Hoaxie, they had reports of portable buildings partially destroyed, scattered siding. In other words, tornado. This was from emergency management. Let's see. This guy here, large observed wedge tornado on the ground coming into Walnut Ridge, numerous power flashes. This is all earlier, by the way. This is like, let's see, 7 o'clock, 7:11 in the evening, so not current. And then that was the last reports from storm chasers of the tornado. So there's Jonesboro. They had some hail. There's no report of a tornado there, even though there were warnings throughout that time. The only confirmed reports of tornadoes were up here in that region. That doesn't mean that maybe there was still one that touched down. It's just maybe nobody saw it and reported it. I'm just going off the past deal because I didn't sit there and analyze it on the fly. And then down here there was a report of one possible tornado between Kaiser and Mary earlier on. Marie, that was 9:35 in the evening. All right, so that was about 20 minutes ago. So this is the current tornado warning. And let's see, we got pretty close to the radar site, so we can see what the data looks like here real quick. So we're over here in Arkansas right now because somebody asked about the tornadoes tonight in that area. And I didn't cover these because they were in pretty far eastern Arkansas. I was kind of watching for storms to bubble up here in Oklahoma. So let's do this. Alright, looks like a blob of heavy rain, a lot of lightning. Let's see what the winds look like. So there's what was residual of a little tiny baby circulation there. Southeast of Gilt Edge, south of Burleson, but it's nothing to write home about. It's pretty weak. I mean, it's nothing that it would scream to me immediate tornado. But in those cases, you're always supposed to just stay in your shelters. Just because on radar it looks like it lifted or it's not doing anything at the time, you just basically wait. Either the tornado gets canceled, the warning, or it has moved out of your area. But right now, it looks like this storm isn't nearly what it was before in the past. It's kind of a messy hybrid of just nonsense with a lot of lightning in it. So that's some good news, but stay in your shelter over here in the Munford and Millington region. This is north of you guys, moving east at about 40, southeast at 40. There's Fulton, Gilt Edge, Burleson, Garland, Drummonds, Egypt, Peabody, Atkins Corner, Wilkesville, and Randolph. So again, this is way out here into eastern Arkansas. And then actually, did it, we gotta be careful because we're going to cross state lines here. Yeah, I think it did cross state lines. Sorry, we're actually just north of Memphis. Yeah, this last few minutes it crossed over, just over the river, or just over the state line there. So that has now moved out of Arkansas. But while it was in there, it did produce a tornado a few times up here in the northern parts. All right, so back here to Oklahoma. Let's go back and check out our guy here. See if there's anything new. These guys are still just trucking along. Hail they have right now is about 1 inch in diameter. For this first leg, for the one between Okmulgee and Beggs, this is, by the way, 1 1/4 inch size hail. So there's Morris, Boynton, Council Hill, Wainwright, Otoka, Warner, Weber's Falls, and Gore between now. They're about 10:54 over almost the next hour. So that storm will hold together. So you will get that storm about that time, and you'll experience a little bit of hail. Whether or not you get a tornado out of it is on the low end. We'll see. But right now, at least you'll get the hail. And the storm behind it is not severe, but it is a strong thunderstorm. And it's got some periods of some hail with it. Now, if these reports are recent, This could have been from the first storm, so you have to kind of be careful. This one came in about 30 minutes ago. That might have been the first storm as well. But regardless, this cell only has about half an inch of hail, so it's much smaller. So it's not even severe. So really, it's only this one that you have to watch. And it's still pretty tiny, and it's struggling. It's really not doing very well, given the environment that it has to itself, all to itself. Keep that in mind. It's got no other storms to impede its progress, etc. Now, if I do look here, though, in Tulsa, is this guy new around Kellyville? I believe it is. Let's do a little radar replay. Or he spin off from the north here. He did. He spin off from the north, but he's trying to grow. So you guys here in Tulsa, you're going to have a little bit of a shower that moves on the west side around Sapulpa and southwest Tulsa County. And if it does decide to strengthen a little bit, you might see a little bit of a weak thunderstorm moving through at some point here on the east side of Tulsa, out toward Coweta, etc. But right now, it's got a ways to go if that were to happen. All right, anything else? There was some weak stuff over here in Delaware that fell apart. So that's it, really. The only game in town is this guy here going through Omogi. So, I know there were a lot of storm chasers headed to Oklahoma today, northeast Oklahoma, and some people ask me why. I'm like, because, man, there's nothing else out there to chase, and they're desperate. And the chasing season this year has really been pretty poor for the plains, so we haven't had that many opportunities to see any storm. And so with that on the table, we'll take what they can get. There'll be some more action in Texas off and on for the next couple of weeks, but like I showed you, I think long term, it's just tough to get that instability up here. We can take a look at that here real quick. See if anything's changed since I last posted that little deal. So let's do that here real quick. Because what you need, first off, is instability. If you don't have any instability, you can't get any storms. So, and then shear is what you need to make a good thunderstorm to be severe, like a supercell, and potentially a tornado. So those are two ingredients that you need to have to even talk about anything. So let's go take a look at that. See if anything that's changed. When we looked at the ensemble blends for April, for the rest of April, it had dew points in the 20s and 30s. It pretty much shut down the entire country. And that's an overall general picture of it. Every now and then you can kind of get like some sneak attack instability that'll sneak in for like a day and barely make it in here in time. So a lot of barelys and a lot of last minute stuff. But all right, let's see what happens. You can see that bubbling up down in Texas on occasion. That's instability. Okay, here comes some that tries to hit the panhandle on the 20th. Here's some that does come into Oklahoma on the 20th. So right around Oklahoma City. So let's see if there's anything in there decent wise. So the shear is pretty decent with this. So the hail threat goes up pretty good. It's not perfect or ideal, but it'll get the job done. So if we can get some other things to happen, like a good surface trigger and upper level energy and all that kind of stuff here on Wednesday, we might get a little action around here to talk about. All right, let's go on after that. And there's a day there on Thursday. So this is a little change because this isn't what the model data had a few days ago. So the model's trying to sneak this stuff in Oklahoma for next week. So here's Thursday, same kind of idea. Winds are a lot weaker though, like so weak that it's not a classic supercell and it would collapse on itself. Even though the profile says tornado, you can't get a tornado in that deal. You just get some weaker thunderstorms, almost pulse-like. All right, let's see what else we got. There's some that kind of sneaks into the plains there on the 22nd, briefly. Keep on going. What you notice, though, whoa, where's this all going? Look at the Gulf just getting completely cleared out. Must be another strong cold front. Oh, that better not drop our temperatures down. See, now I'm going to have to go look at that. Where in the world did all the instability go? Wow. There's some that try to come in out of nowhere. This is lame stuff, because the trajectory doesn't come like this and come up. So this isn't even deep juice. It's just lame juice. That's not going to do anything. All right, and that's it. Whoa. So this is what I'm saying. This is how sad April is. And April is usually a pretty good storm month. So we have a couple little sneak tongues of moisture in here. for next week, those 2 days, and then one maybe there's maybe a day there. So there's some potential events here across Oklahoma. They're not big magnitude events, so you may not get 8 days of Armageddon talk and 8 days of prepare and 8 days of clean out your shelter and 8 days of whatever planning. You may not get that because you're not going to hear all that hype for these. These are like little quiet setups. Let's do what the temperatures look like because I'm kind of curious. That looked like a pretty big push of cold air. Let me go to... I'll just do this. Man, cold up there in Canada. Man, they're still in the teens. They had a massive snowstorm, the other day in Manitoba, southern Manitoba and Dakotas. All right, so that's where all the cold air stays in Canada. They can have it. All right, so there's our big cool down here from the 18th, sneaking in the mornings, and the 19th. So watch out for your plants in northeast Oklahoma. All right, let's go on after that. There's a big push. Remember that all that moisture in the Gulf gets driven out, so there must be a big cold front somewhere. So here comes one on the 24th of the month. Oh, how cold were those temperatures? Here. So there's some 30s. There's some upper 30s in there. That stinks, man. April 25th. Watch that date. This is grain of salt, of course, because we're way out there in time. But if the signal still stays over the next several days, we might get some really cold temperatures in the morning there. All right, so let's see what else. At least it's not a freeze. That's some good news. But it does cool things down in the morning. Okay, after that, it's not a big deal. If we start to heat back up, oh man, we're back in the 90s because we're probably bone dry. In other words, we don't get no dew points. Let's take a look. So the dew points gets scoured out a little bit. There's that little homemade juice, I call it, right here that tries to just pop up. That's just from vegetation. It's not really from a trajectory from the Gulf. Our dew points in the 40s and then up here to the 30s at the end of this forecast period. So let's see what happens. Let me look at a forecast sounding here for this quality of moisture. Yeah, that's pathetic. So this spread is too big and this spread is way too big. So a lot of dry air. So that's not going to do you any good. Snowstorms. So that's what I'm saying. Most of the, if you noticed, the only sliver of activity was here in Oklahoma, roughly central Oklahoma and parts of Texas for the rest of April. And that's it. So you're going to have a lot of storm chasers around here hanging out, hoping for something. That was the GFS. Let me go to the European, see if it kind of has the same idea. I'll do dew points at first. So all those dew points are hanging down along the coast. There they sneak into Texas and Oklahoma for a little bit, about the same time the GFS said. They come up across the plains and they mix out. A little bit, another little round there, around the 25th. I think that's when that next push of cold air was supposed to come in to drive things out. So had a couple there. Let's take a look at the Cape values. All right, so everything's right now is Texas, Texas, Texas. Okay, there's that on the 20th. So I'll pick western Oklahoma, west central Oklahoma, so kind of Weatherford area, Clinton. So we got decent turning with height, but the wind speeds are very weak. So you got a supercell out of this that can produce some hail. But to get a tornado out of that, it's going to be a little harder because the winds are much weaker. It's kind of more of a late summer setup, but without the heat. Only 73 degrees. So it's not a whole lot of Cape. Just don't have much going on in our favor. There's a lot of weakness in these ingredients. All right, let's go to the 21st. That was the next day. We still have some of this hanging around. Is it any better? No, because the wind speeds here are still weak. That's 10 knots here in the mid levels, and that possible hazard type, you'd read that says marginal severe, meaning it's hard to even get a severe storm with this kind of a weak wind. So that's not going to do it. What about after that? Anything? No. All the way through the 25th. And then I think that's when the next front comes in. Let me see if it has a front. It doesn't go out as far as the American model does, because they know better. That means you can only go out so far and have any skill level or accuracy with it. Let me check on this morning temperatures though. Ooh, on the 18th. Okay, so about 42 here in Oklahoma City, 40 in Tulsa, and then there's those 30s in northeast Oklahoma. All right, so we kind of already knew that. And what about the 19th, morning of? Same idea, cold there in this little northeastern pocket. All right, now let's go on after that. No, there's really no big push on this model for a strong front. So maybe later in the month, we get a residual return of some moisture that doesn't get cleared out to the Gulf like the other model had. But time will tell us that's pretty far off in La La Land. So let's go back to that little storm, see what it's doing. All right, so the two storms there, and they are struggling. I mean, they look really sad. This guy here on the left, though, got a little stronger. Guy on the right got weaker. It's barely even severe. Guy on the left at least has a hail core with it of about 1.5 inches in diameter. So it got up to about golf ball size. Oh, remember that little shower that we talked about up around Sapulpa? It's actually got a little red in it now, so it's a heavy shower. No lightning with it, though, so no thunderstorm yet, but that's moving through southern Tulsa County. So you might get a little rumble of thunder before it passes by. So let's take a look at these guys to see what they've done. So this one has grown a part of it. Look at that. Remember what the last one we looked at was about 40,000 feet or so? This one's got the cloud top up around pushing 60,000 feet. So it's got a little boost. So while we were looking at some other weather data, this thing grew a little bit. Let's see. It's got some hail aloft. That's definitely going to be golf balls right there, hanging on around 20,000 feet. Over in the hail growth zone. All right, let's look at this little buddy. His little buddy's a little weaker, about 45 to 50,000 feet. And he's got some hail, but it's a lot smaller. Doesn't have his excessive size aloft. So these are just standard Oklahoma thunderstorms. Little hail, little lightning. So let me check something else. We can't see it on this radar view. So what we watch for in this case is if this cell is going to continue to weaken and kind of die out, it made a push now, kind of like a mini outflow boundary, like a little mini cold front out of it. Very, very localized things. In other words, like a little push of cold air that sits like this, right? As the cell kind of comes this way, it kind of starts to weaken. So what happens is this little boundary stays here. Then this dude comes along on the exact same trajectory, like so, and the inflow to the storm, this little section here, comes in like so, and it starts to ingest the boundary. Now there's vorticity or spinning along that boundary, and that could cause this storm to try to produce a tornado. So that's how these two could interact. But to see that, we have to actually see a boundary come out of that, and we don't with that radar. I'm going to switch radar sources, and we're going to see if we can't see anything different with this other one. It's a little closer. So by the way, if you guys are still watching, just a reminder that I'm broadcast live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Rumble. So I'm doing Rumble now. Rumble started doing live broadcasts about 6 months ago, and it's in its infancy, but it's getting better. All right, so let's see here. I do not see any gusting out of wind with this yet. But that would be something that you would watch with time as these two storms interact with one another. But that right now is really the only game in town for at least the next couple of hours. Then after that, we'll see if new storms kind of bubble up back here closer to the cold front itself with time. As the model suggested, then all of those just kind of congeal and move all over the place to the south and east. That's it. So I'll kind of keep an eye on this off and on here for a little bit, see if any of these get a hand, and if so, then I'd be back on with a live severe weather cut-in to cover tornadoes, right? Because that's the only time I would come back. So if it looks like they're going to produce a tornado, I'll come on live for that, and I'll do. If you kind of live in that area, because I know it's late, so I don't want to wake people up. But if you live in that area, what I would do is I would send you a push notification on your phone if you have my weather app, AT's Weather to Go, and I'll tell you now broadcasting live tornado coverage, right? So that way, if you get that message from me, it means you're at least somewhere in the vicinity where this particular tornado development in areas may go. So that would be a very small outline that I would draw. Matter of fact, let me just show you what I'm talking about. So on my weather apps, this is the back end of it. So this is why you really should get it. If you don't have AT's Weather to Go, you're missing out. So here on the back end, so I'll zoom in here to this particular storm. All right, and then let me back up a little bit more to this view. Okay, see all these little bobbleheads? These are you guys. Now, it just says 7 subscribers locations. So I don't know who you are. I don't know anything about you. So that's why here's this proof. I don't know, no secret data, comes my way from using my app. I just know your location, and I know that you want to know if there's a storm coming, right? So then all I do is I take that little area of the storm that I want, and I can just draw a line and go, okay, I want these people, if it'll work for me, there we go, in this polygon that I'm drawing, this little area here, to get a warning or notification from me. So as I draw this little area, you can it's in pink, so of course it's hard to see over a pink deal. So it's in this little box here, and then I can send all of you guys a custom alert that says, hey, live tornado coverage, tracking the storm, because the storm is heading within this zone. And that way you guys will go, oh, better tune in. So that's kind of how I can do that for you. I don't use that function a lot, usually because I got so much going on. And usually once I go live, it's a multitasking nightmare. And then to do something else, while to stop talking about tornado coverage and then go back to that can be problematic. Plus, I sometimes forget because I got too many other things going on. I'm talking to storm chasers, whatever. So, it's a lot going on. Where are you at? All right, that's it for me. I'm going to get out of here. By the way, if you don't have my weather app, it's called AT's Weather to Go. It's on Apple, Google Play. It's free, and it'll predict tornadoes about 15 minutes before they even develop because it has proprietary algorithms that do so. So your regular weather apps out there that you use from app stores, don't do that. So pick that one up, and that way you can be safe. All right, well, that's going to do it for me here for the remainder of tonight. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll keep an eye on things. If it looks like it's going to get a little ugly, I'll be back. If not, sleep tight, and have a great Easter weekend. Take care, everybody.